The night sky above the red desert was quiet, too quiet. Only the wind moved across the dunes, whispering like an old ghost. Far away, a single cabin stood under the twin moons, its small lights blinking weakly against the darkness. Inside that lonely house lived a man named Eli Trent, a human who had forgotten how it felt to laugh. Eli had come to this small colony world 7 years ago, dreaming of peace. Back then, Earth was loud, crowded, and full of memories he wanted to forget. His wife gone, his friends all distant stars now. Here, on this dry world called Havalon 3, he thought silence would heal him. But silence was heavy. It grew in his heart like stone. Days passed with no voices, only the hum of machines and the sound of his boots on metal floors. He tried to fill the silence. He talked to his garden plants. He repaired old droids that barely worked. But no matter what he did, when the sun set, the loneliness returned. It pressed against his chest until it hurt. Then one day he saw an ad flash on his old data screen. Galactic Companion Service. Order a partner. Any race, any world. He stared at it for a long time. The idea sounded crazy. But loneliness makes people do strange things. He read every line, every promise of connection, of warmth, of someone who would stay. The service claimed they could find a match anywhere in the galaxy. Eli laughed bitterly at first, but later that night, as he stared at the empty chair across from him, he pressed order. He didn't ask for anything special. Just someone human, someone kind. The payment took almost everything he had. He didn't care. He just wanted a voice to talk to. The system confirmed, your order is accepted. Estimated arrival 3 days, 3 long days passed. Eli cleaned his cabin, fixed broken lights, and even shaved for the first time in months. He felt nervous, like a young man again. On the 3rd night, when the moons were high, he went outside to watch the sky. At first, he thought the shooting star was just that, a piece of rock burning up in the atmosphere. But then the light grew brighter, louder. It roared across the desert, leaving a trail of blue fire. Eli's heart pounded. That's it, he whispered. She's here. The craft came down fast, too fast. It wasn't landing. It was crashing. The ground shook as the pod hit the dunes beyond the ridge. A shockwave threw sand into the air like an explosion. Eli didn't think. He grabbed his flashlight and ran. His boots sank deep into the sand as he climbed the hill. The air was hot, filled with the smell of metal and smoke. The pod lay half buried, cracked open like an egg. Sparks danced in the dark. He called out, "Hello? Can you hear me?" Something moved inside. A low growl, not human. Eli froze. Then a massive figure stepped out through the steam. For a moment he couldn't breathe. She was tall, at least 7 feet, maybe more. Her skin shimmered like silver glass, marked with faint glowing lines. Her long hair floated as if it were underwater. Pieces of broken armor clung to her, and her eyes, large, golden, and bright, locked on him. Eli stumbled backward, his flashlight trembling in his hand. "What the hell?" he whispered. The alien woman looked around, confused, breathing hard. Her gaze fell on Eli. She took 1 step toward him. The sand cracked under her heavy boots. Her voice came out deep, echoing like thunder. "You human?" Eli nodded slowly. "Yes, who are you?" She didn't answer right away. Her eyes narrowed as if trying to understand. Then she pressed something on her wrist. Her voice changed, the sound smoother but still strange. "Kara," she said. "I am Kara." Eli's heart pounded. He looked at the broken pod. "You're hurt," he said quickly. "You shouldn't move." "I'll call for help." Kara shook her head. "No calls, they find me." Her knees bent slightly and she almost fell. Eli caught her arm. It was like grabbing stone. Her body was heavy, warm, trembling. "Easy," he said softly. "You're safe here." Her golden eyes softened for a second, but then she looked up at the sky, fear flashing across her face. "No, not safe." "They come." Before Eli could ask who they were, a loud crack of thunder rolled across the desert. He turned toward the horizon and saw red lights moving in the distance, fast. Kara's breathing grew sharp. "They follow. They hunt Kara." Eli looked at the lights, then back at her. She was shaking, injured, scared, but even then she looked powerful, dangerous, like a warrior out of legend. He took a deep breath. "Then come with me," he said. "We'll hide," Kara hesitated. "You help Kara?" "Yes," Eli said without thinking. "I'll help." She stared at him for a long moment, her golden eyes reflecting the firelight. Then slowly she nodded. As they moved through the desert toward his cabin, the red lights behind them grew brighter. Eli didn't know who was coming, or what he had brought into his life. But deep down, he felt something strange for the first time in years. Not fear, not loneliness. Hope. And somewhere behind them, in the smoking wreck, a beacon blinked red, sending a signal across the stars. Kara's eyes flicked back once more. Her voice was quiet, almost a whisper. "They will come for me. And for you." Eli didn't answer. He just kept walking beside her, unaware that his lonely order had just changed the fate of two worlds. The morning light crept over the dunes, turning the red sand gold. Inside Eli's small cabin, silence filled the air, except for the soft sound of breathing. Kara slept on the floor beside the heater, her large body wrapped in one of Eli's blankets that barely covered her shoulders. Even in sleep, her muscles were tight, as if she was ready to fight at any moment. Eli sat across from her, staring, trying to understand what had happened last night. He had expected a small ship, maybe a smiling woman from another colony. A human, someone gentle. Instead, the stars had dropped an alien warrior into his yard. She wasn't what he ordered. She wasn't what anyone would expect. But when he looked at her face now, peaceful for the first time, he didn't feel fear. He felt curiosity. Her skin glowed faintly in the morning light, silver with blue veins that pulsed like slow lightning. The translator on her wrist flickered quietly, and Eli wondered what kind of life she had before falling here. He made coffee, the smell filling the room. When Kara's eyes opened, they gleamed golden like the sun. She sat up fast, scanning the room as if expecting danger. "You are safe," Eli said quickly, raising his hands. "No one followed you." "Not yet." Kara blinked slowly, her gaze heavy and sharp. "Not yet," she repeated, her voice deep but smoother now through the translator. She looked around, eyes landing on the strange human objects. Chairs, the heater, pictures on the wall. "You live alone?" she said, almost a question. "Yes," Eli replied, sitting down. "Too long alone." Kara tilted her head. "Why?" He gave a small smile. "I was tired of people. Tired of noise. I thought peace would help me." She didn't answer. Her golden eyes seemed to see through him, as if she could feel his loneliness like scent in the air. Then slowly she touched the metal wall beside her. "Peace," she said softly, is heavy, like stone. Her words surprised him. Simple but true. Eli nodded. "Yes, you understand." Kara stood up slowly, her head almost touching the ceiling. She looked powerful even in silence. When she stepped forward, the floor creaked under her boots. Eli couldn't help but feel small beside her. She walked to the window and froze. Outside, strange marks covered the sand, deep claw prints circling the cabin. Eli followed her gaze. "Those weren't there before," he said quietly. Kara's jaw tightened. "Hunters," she whispered. "They came at night." Eli's stomach turned cold. "You mean they were here? Around us?" Kara nodded once. "They smell blood. Mine." He looked at her shoulder, where dark metallic blood had dried over a wound. "We need to fix that," he said, moving toward the supply box. She watched him carefully as he took out bandages and an antiseptic bottle. When he stepped closer, she flinched slightly, not in fear but instinct. "I will not harm you," he said softly. She led him near. As he cleaned the wound, Kara didn't move or make a sound. Her skin felt warm, alive like living steel. He wrapped the bandage carefully, trying not to show how his hands trembled. When he finished, she whispered, "You heal me." "Why?" He looked up at her. "Because you needed help. That's what humans do." Kara stared at him for a long time, as if trying to understand something deeper. Then she said almost in a whisper, "Not all do." A long silence followed. The air outside grew thick and still. Suddenly the power flickered. The heater went dark. The lights died. Eli cursed under his breath. "Solar lines cut again." Kara walked to the door, opening it slowly. A cold wind blew in, carrying a smell of burnt metal. "No," she said, voice low. "Not broken, cut." She pointed to the wires outside. They were slashed clean like by claws or blades. Eli's pulse quickened. "They're still here," Kara nodded. "They wait." Before he could ask what they were, she stepped out into the sunlight, scanning the dunes. Her eyes shifted, glowing brighter. The air around her seemed to hum. Eli followed carefully, holding his old plasma cutter like a weapon. Far away, a shape moved behind the dunes, something tall, crawling fast. Kara's voice turned hard. They are scouts. More will come when the suns fall. Eli swallowed. Then we need to prepare. Kara looked at him, surprised. You stay? You fight with Kara? He hesitated. He was just a lonely man who ordered a bride, not a soldier. But looking at her, wounded, alone, yet standing tall, he couldn't leave. Yes, he said simply. I'll stay. Something in her expression softened. For the first time, Kara smiled, a small, strange smile that made her eyes glow even brighter. Together they worked through the day. Eli fixed the power, set up motion alarms, and sealed the windows. Kara, meanwhile, walked the perimeter, marking the sand with alien symbols that shimmered faintly blue. It will confuse them, she explained. Hide our scent. By sunset, the desert was quiet again. The two sat inside, the heater humming back to life. Eli poured her a cup of warm water. She held it carefully, studying the steam as if she'd never seen it before. When I crashed, Kara said quietly, I thought I was dead. My people, they do not forgive. Eli frowned. Forgive for what? Kara didn't answer. Her eyes grew distant, almost sad. I refused an order, she whispered. I would not kill. Eli stared at her. You were a soldier? She nodded once. A commander. Outside, the night wind howled against the walls. Kara's eyes lifted, sensing something. Eli saw it too, a flicker of red light beyond the dunes. Kara stood slowly, her shadow filling the room. They found me, she said, voice low like thunder. Eli felt his heartbeat pound in his ears. He moved to the window, seeing more lights, moving, circling. The hunters had come. Kara looked at him and said quietly, If they enter, do not run. They smell fear. Eli took a deep breath and nodded. Then I'll try not to be afraid. The alien warrior smiled again, cold, proud, and fierce. Outside, the sand began to move. Shapes crawled in the darkness, red eyes glowing. And deep inside, Eli realized something strange. He was no longer the lonely man who ordered a bride. He was standing beside one, a giant, a warrior. And whatever was coming next, he wouldn't face it alone. The night came fast, heavy, and alive. The 2 moons of Havilon 3 hid behind clouds of red dust, leaving only darkness outside the small cabin. The air was thick with silence, the kind that waits before danger. Inside, Eli checked his old blaster again, though he knew it was useless against whatever was coming. Kara stood near the window, her eyes glowing faint gold in the dim light, her massive body tense like a coiled spring. They are close, she said quietly, voice deep as thunder. I can hear their claws in the sand. Eli strained to listen, but heard nothing. Just the wind. How many? He asked. Kara's nostrils flared. 4, maybe 5. Scouts first, hunters after. He swallowed hard. What do they want? Kara turned her head slowly toward him. Me, and anyone who helps me. Eli's grip tightened around the blaster. He wanted to ask more, but a faint scratching sound came from outside. Then another. It wasn't wind. It was movement. Something was crawling around the walls. The motion alarms Eli had set earlier blinked red, every single one. Kara's eyes narrowed. They circle. Testing defenses, Eli's heart raced. What are they? Kara looked toward the window, her face hard. Hunters from my world. They clean what my people leave behind, no mercy, no prisoners. He stared at her, disbelief mixing with fear. They're here to kill you? She nodded once. To erase me. The scratching grew louder, metal claws dragging across steel. Then came a heavy thud against the door. Dust fell from the ceiling. Eli aimed the blaster, his hands shaking. Kara didn't move. She just listened. Another thud. Then a growl, a sound that didn't belong to any animal he knew. Suddenly Kara moved. Fast. She slammed her palm against the wall control, cutting the cabin's lights completely. Darkness swallowed them. Don't move, she whispered. They see heat, Eli froze. His pulse hammered in his ears. Outside, the sound of claws grew sharper. One window cracked, a long black talon sliding through the glass. Kara waited, her breathing calm and steady. Then, without warning, she burst into action. She grabbed the plasma spear she had made from scrap metal and charged. The door exploded inward, and 3 shadowy figures leapt through the smoke, thin, fast, their bodies covered in dark plates that shimmered red. Eli ducked as Kara roared and swung her spear. cutting through one creature's chest. Sparks flew. The thing screeched and fell. Two others lunged, their claws slashing the air. Kara caught one mid-jump and threw it against the wall so hard the metal cracked. Eli fired his blaster at the third one. The shot hit its shoulder, making it stumble, but it didn't fall. It hissed, a sound that chilled him to the bone. Kara spun her spear, slicing its head clean off. The body collapsed at Eli's feet, twitching. Then for a moment everything was still. Smoke drifted through the air, thick and bitter. Kara looked at the bodies, breathing heavy. "Scouts only," she said. "The true hunters come next." Eli blinked, struggling to believe what he had seen. You killed them like it was nothing." Kara's golden eyes met his. "It was not nothing," she said softly. "They were my brothers once," Eli froze. "What do you mean?" She turned away, silent for a long time. "I commanded them," she said finally, "before I disobeyed orders." Eli tried to speak, but the words wouldn't come. He looked at the bodies again. Strange armor, glowing lines, claws built for killing. "What kind of war were you fighting?" Kara didn't answer. She walked outside, stepping over the corpses, scanning the horizon. The wind howled, carrying the scent of blood. The twin moons reappeared, silver light touching her face. For the first time, Eli saw her differently, not as a monster, but as someone hunted by her own people, carrying a pain deeper than loneliness. She looked back at him. "You cannot stay here," she said. "They will send more, stronger." Eli shook his head. "I'm not leaving you," Kara frowned. "You do not understand. They will burn this place. They will burn you." He stepped closer. "Then we run together." Her golden eyes softened, conflicted. "Why?" she asked. "Why risk your life for one like me?" Eli smiled faintly. "Because I know what it's like to have no one left." For the first time, Kara didn't argue. She simply nodded. "Then we run." They gathered what they could. Water, rations, the beacon parts in Eli's small toolkit. Outside, the night stretched endless and dark. The wind carried distant roars. The hunters were coming. Kara led the way, her movements silent and sure. Eli followed close behind, his heart racing. They moved across the dunes, heading for the canyon miles away, where old mining tunnels still lay half buried under stone. But before they reached it, Kara suddenly stopped. She knelt in the sand, her hand pressing against the ground. "Too late," she said. "They are near." Eli turned and saw lights rising behind them. Red, bright, and fast-moving. Dozens of them. Kara grabbed his arm and pulled him down into the sand. "Hide," she ordered. Eli crawled beside her behind a ridge. From there, they watched dark ships glide low across the sky, scanning the ground with red beams. One beam passed just inches from Eli's face. His heart nearly stopped. Kara whispered, "They won't stop. They will search until dawn." Eli looked at her, this giant alien who had fallen from the stars, now hunted like prey, and felt something fierce awaken in his chest. Not fear, not pity, something stronger. "We'll make it to the tunnels," he said firmly. "We'll find a way to fight back." Kara turned her head slightly, her eyes catching the faint moonlight. There was pride in her look. "Maybe," she said softly. "Maybe humans are not as weak as I was told." A sudden explosion lit the sky behind them. The ships were landing. Kara stood spear ready, her shadow long against the sand. "Then we fight," Eli Trent, "together." And as the hunters closed in, the lonely human and the fallen alien giant disappeared into the desert night, two against an army, their fates now bound by fire and blood. The dawn rose weak and pale over the canyon. Cold winds swept through the rocks, carrying the smell of dust and metal. Eli and Kara sat in silence near a small fire deep inside an abandoned mining tunnel. The walls glowed orange from the flames, flickering across Kara's silver skin. She sat still, her large hands resting on her knees, her eyes half closed. But Eli knew she wasn't sleeping. He had seen her fight, bleed, and still move like a force of nature. But here in the quiet she looked almost peaceful, almost human. Eli stared into the fire. His hands were still shaking from the night before. The images replayed in his mind, the red lights, the screams, the smell of burning sand. He had never faced death like that. Yet what frightened him most wasn't the danger outside. It was the strange feeling growing inside his chest whenever Kara looked at him. He poured water into a metal cup and passed it to her. "Here," he said softly. "You need to drink." Kara took the cup carefully, her huge fingers wrapping around it like holding a fragile bird. "You are kind," she said after a pause. Human surprise me. Eli gave a small smile. We surprise ourselves too. Kara sipped slowly, her golden eyes watching the flames. Where I come from, she said quietly. Kindness is weakness. We were trained to obey, not to feel. Eli looked at her curiously. You said you disobeyed an order. What was it? Her eyes darkened. They wanted me to destroy a human colony. It was peaceful. Children, families. They said humans were spreading too fast. I refused. I told them I would not kill the innocent. She paused, her jaw tightening. They called me traitor, exile. They sent hunters after me. Eli felt a deep ache in his chest. So they tried to erase you because you chose mercy. Kara's gaze met his. Mercy is dangerous, she said. It makes others question their orders. That is why they fear it. Silence filled the tunnel again. The fire crackled softly. Eli thought about his own world. Wars, greed, power, and realized humanity wasn't so different. After a long moment, he spoke. You did the right thing, Kara, no matter what they say. She tilted her head slightly, studying him. You speak as if you know what right means. He smiled sadly. I'm not sure I do anymore, but I know what wrong feels like. Her eyes softened for the first time. Something unspoken passed between them. Pain recognizing pain. Hours passed. The sun climbed higher, burning away the chill. Kara stood and stretched, her long shadow covering the tunnel wall. We must move soon, she said. If the hunters track the wreck, they will follow the sand trails here. Eli nodded and started packing. As he worked, Kara stepped outside to scan the horizon. From the mouth of the cave, she could see far across the desert, miles of endless red. Somewhere out there, her people hunted her. Somewhere out there, ships waited to erase her name. But when she turned back toward the cave, she saw Eli bending over his bag, his messy brown hair falling into his eyes. He looked fragile, small, but something about his quiet courage stirred something inside her chest, a feeling she didn't have a word for. That night, they reached a cluster of stone cliffs where old mining shelters still stood. Eli worked to repair one of the power cells while Kara watched the skies for enemy ships. The air hummed faintly with tension, both from danger and from something new growing between them. When darkness fell, the stars came alive above them, thousands of lights scattered across the black sky. Eli sat outside the shelter, staring up. You see that? He said softly. All that light, and we're still sitting here, hiding in the dark. Kara sat beside him, the ground trembling slightly under her weight. Light does not always mean safety, she said. Sometimes it only shows where you can be killed faster. Eli chuckled. That's a cheerful thought. Kara's lips curved faintly, the closest thing she had to a smile. Truth is not cheerful, human. He glanced at her, amused. You can call me Eli, you know. She looked at him for a long second. Eli, she repeated, her voice slow, careful, almost gentle. The way she said his name sent a strange warmth through him. For a moment, neither spoke. The firelight flickered across their faces, one human, one alien, and yet they looked oddly similar in the glow. Then a faint beeping sound broke the silence. Eli turned to see the communication beacon blinking on his tool bag. His heart jumped. It's working, he said quickly. The signal went through. Kara moved closer, her face suddenly tense. Who did you call? I sent a distress ping, Eli replied. To the agency that sent the order. Maybe they can help us? Kara shook her head slowly. No, you do not understand. If the message reached the wrong hands. The beacon beeped again, louder this time. A small light flashed green. The screen flickered, then a voice came through. Unknown human vessel. Return the property. The exile Kara belongs to the Varish Empire. Return her or be destroyed. Eli's face went pale. What, property? Kara stood up slowly, her expression unreadable. They found us, she said in a low voice. My people. They are coming. Eli shut off the beacon, his hand shaking. We'll run again. We'll hide. Kara's golden eyes met his. No, she said softly. We cannot run forever. When they come, they will burn this world to find me. Eli swallowed. Then what do we do? Kara stepped closer, her shadow falling over him. We fight. He looked up at her towering figure, firelight shining on her silver skin, her eyes burning like suns. She looked both terrifying and beautiful, a living weapon made of pain and pride. For a long moment, neither spoke. Then Eli said quietly, If we fight together. Kara stared at him, her chest rising and falling. "You are strange, Eli Trent," she said. "Most would run," he smiled faintly. "I was tired of running a long time ago." For the first time, she placed her hand on his shoulder, carefully as if afraid to crush him. "Then your courage is your weapon," she said. Outside, the wind shifted. The stars flickered, and far above the desert, 3 enormous ships entered orbit, silent shadows waiting to strike. Kara looked up at them and whispered, "They have come." And for the first time in years, Eli wasn't afraid. He looked at her, the alien giant who had fallen into his life, and knew something had changed inside both of them. Loneliness had turned into something else, something stronger. The bond had begun. The wind over Havilon 3 carried a strange sound that morning, a low hum that made the air itself shake. Eli woke before sunrise, feeling the vibration under the ground. He stepped outside the old mining shelter and looked up. The sky was dark, though the suns hadn't risen yet. A shadow moved through the clouds, too big to be anything natural. Then he saw them. 3 enormous ships, black and silent, sliding across the horizon like ghosts. His breath caught. "They're here," he whispered. Kara stood behind him, her golden eyes fixed on the sky. Her face showed no fear, only calm acceptance. "The Empire has arrived," she said. "They come for me." Eli turned to her, his voice sharp. "Then we have to move." "There must be somewhere to hide." She shook her head slowly. "No place on this planet can hide us now." Their eyes see everything. The ships spread across the atmosphere, forming a triangle above the desert. Their shadows fell over miles of sand. A deep voice echoed from the sky, mechanical and cold. "Exile Kara of the bloodline. You have violated command. Return to judgment, or the world you hide on will burn." Eli felt his stomach twist. "They'll destroy everything?" "Yes," Kara said quietly. "They burn whole colonies for less." He clenched his fists. "Then we fight." Kara looked down at him. "You would fight an empire?" Eli met her gaze, his voice steady. "I'd fight anyone who threatens my home." Something flickered in Kara's eyes. Pride, maybe, or sorrow. "Then we fight," she said. All that day they prepared. Eli dragged out old mining drones and reprogrammed them as defense bots. They carried blasters, small shields, and crude rockets. Kara reinforced the shelter, carving alien symbols on the walls, protective marks of her people. Her hands moved fast and precise, glowing lines of energy trailing from her fingertips. "These symbols," Eli asked as he worked beside her. "What do they do?" "They remind the soul not to break," she said softly. "Even if the body does." By nightfall, the first ship lowered closer, its engines roaring like thunder. Sandstorms rose across the plains. From the belly of the craft, small dropships launched, dark ovals cutting through the sky. Kara and Eli stood outside the shelter, watching them descend. "They'll land within the hour," Kara said. "Commanders first, hunters after." Eli checked his old rifle. "You think they'll talk first?" Her eyes narrowed. "No, they will order, and then they will kill." The first drop pods hit the desert hard, sending waves of dust into the air. Kara stood tall, her silver armor glowing faintly. She looked like a storm-given form, calm, deadly, unstoppable. When the first group of alien soldiers appeared, Eli froze. They were massive like her, but their armor was darker, heavier. Their faces were hidden behind masks that shimmered red. At the center of them walked a tall figure with a crimson crest on his headpiece. His voice boomed through the canyon. "Kara of the Varish, you stand accused of treason. Kneel and your death will be swift." Kara didn't move. "I will not kneel," she said. "Not to murderers." The soldiers aimed their weapons. Eli stepped forward instinctively, standing beside her. The alien commander tilted his head. "A human," he said. "You pollute yourself with this species?" Kara's voice was steady. "He saved me. He showed mercy, something you forgot long ago." The commander raised his arm. "Then he dies with you." Before he could give the order, Kara slammed her spear into the ground. The sand around them glowed blue. A shockwave burst outward, knocking the nearest soldiers off their feet. Eli fired his rifle, hitting one in the shoulder. The others scattered. Lasers tore through the air. Explosions lit up the cliffs. Kara moved like lightning, her spear spinning, cutting through armor. She fought not like a soldier, but like someone who had nothing left to lose. Eli ducked behind the rocks, firing whenever he could. The drones he reprogrammed buzzed forward, firing tiny rockets that made the sand erupt in fire. The battle painted the night with chaos and flame. In the middle of it, Eli saw the commander watching Kara, unmoved. Then the commander removed his mask. His face was pale silver like hers, but colder, sharper. His eyes glowed crimson. "Kara," he called. "You fight well?" "Sister," Eli froze. "Sister?" Kara turned, her breath catching. "Farah," she whispered. "You shouldn't have come." Varen smiled cruelly. "I came to clean our bloodline." Kara's grip tightened on her spear. "You've already stained it," Varen pointed at Eli. "You chose a human over your people. For that I will end him first." Eli aimed his blaster, his hands trembling. "You'll have to get through me first." Varen laughed, a cold, echoing sound. So brave, so small. Before he could attack, Kara stepped in front of Eli. "Touch him," she said, "and I will tear down your ships myself." Varen's smile faded. "Then watch your world burn." He pressed a device on his wrist. Above them, one of the ships turned slowly, its weapons charging. The sky glowed red. Eli shouted, "They're going to fire." Kara's eyes blazed gold. "No," she said, voice breaking like thunder. "Not while I live." She lifted her spear high and slammed it into the ground again. This time the energy exploded upward, striking the ship with a column of blue light. The sky roared. The massive vessel shook, its lower hull cracking apart in flame. Varen stumbled back, shocked. "You would destroy your own kin?" Kara's voice was raw. "They stopped being my kin when they killed for pride." Smoke filled the air. The ship began to fall toward the desert, fire trailing behind it. Kara turned to Eli, her face pale but determined. "We have minutes before they regroup," she said. "We must end this." Eli nodded, his pulse racing. "Then let's end it together." Far above, the two remaining ships shifted position, blocking out the stars. Varen raised his blade, his voice cold and final. "Then you both die here." Kara stepped forward, her spear glowing brighter than ever. "Not before I show you what it means to fight for someone. Not something." And as lightning cracked across the sky and the burning ship fell to the desert below, the lonely human and the alien giant prepared to face the storm together. The desert burned red beneath the falling ship. Flames licked the sky and the air shook with thunder. Eli could barely stand from the shockwave. He covered his face as sand and fire swept across the canyon. When he looked up again, the wrecked Varish ship lay half buried in the dunes, burning like a dying sun. Kara stood before him, her spear raised, her armor cracked but her eyes still bright, golden and fierce. Above them, two more ships hovered, their lights cutting through the smoke. The commander, Varin, Kara's brother, stood across the battlefield, tall and cold, his silver skin marked with crimson lines of command. Around him, soldiers formed a circle. None dared move. The air between brother and sister was heavy like a storm waiting to break. "Enough!" Varin's voice rolled across the dunes like thunder. "You've shamed our house long enough. Surrender, and I will spare the human's death from pain." Kara stepped forward, her spear dragging a long scar through the sand. "You speak of shame," she said, her tone low, trembling with fury. "But it is you who serve cruelty. You burn worlds and call it justice." Varin's red eyes narrowed. "You forget your place." "I remember it too well," Kara said, her voice breaking for the first time. "You were my brother once." For a heartbeat, silence filled the desert. The flames hissed. The wind howled. Eli could feel his chest tighten as he watched them face each other. Two giants bound by blood but divided by everything else. Varen raised his sword, a curved blade glowing with red energy. "Then it ends here. You, me, and the weak thing you protect." Eli took a step forward, gripping his blaster. "If you want her, you'll have to go through me first." Varen's cruel smile returned. "So the pet speaks." He looked at Kara. "You would hide behind him?" Kara's eyes burned. "He hides behind no one." Then before anyone could move, Eli shouted, "Wait!" His voice echoed across the canyon. He pointed at Varen. "You call yourself a commander, prove it. Fight me, one-on-one." Kara turned to him, shocked. "Eli, no!" But Eli didn't back down. His heart was pounding, his hands shaking, but he stood tall. "You want her? Then fight me for her. If I fall, she's yours. If I win, you leave this planet." Varen laughed, a deep, bitter laugh that made the soldiers shift uneasily. "You challenge me, human? You can barely hold that weapon." Eli raised his chin. "Maybe. But I have something you'll never have." Varen tilted his head. "And what is that?" Eli's voice was steady. A reason to fight. The words cut deeper than any blade. Even Kara fell silent. Varen stared at the human, his face unreadable, then slowly lowered his sword. Very well, he said. One fight. No weapons of war, only strength and will. If you fall, she comes with me. Kara stepped between them, her voice shaking. He doesn't understand our ways, Varen. This is madness. Varian's cold smile returned. Then he dies quickly. Eli touched Kara's arm. Let me do this, he whispered. You've fought enough. Her golden eyes softened, pain flickering inside them. He will kill you, Eli. Maybe, Eli said quietly, but not without knowing I stood for you. She wanted to argue, to stop him, but something in his voice made her step back. Slowly, she placed her spear in the sand and bowed her head. Then stand, human, she whispered. And do not kneel. The circle closed. The firelight painted long shadows across the sand. Varen removed his armor, revealing scars carved across his chest like maps of old wars. Eli stood in front of him, small and fragile in comparison, wearing nothing but a torn shirt and courage. Begin, Varen said coldly. Eli charged first. His fists hit the alien's chest with all his strength, but it was like striking stone. Varen barely flinched before knocking Eli aside with one arm. He fell hard, coughing sand and blood. Kara shouted, Eli, stay down! But Eli pushed himself up, teeth clenched. Not yet, he said through gritted teeth. Varen moved fast, a blur of motion. Each strike landed like thunder, but Eli dodged as best as he could, rolling through the sand using every ounce of human instinct. He was slower, weaker, but his eyes never left Kara's. She was watching him, and that gave him strength. Finally, Varen caught him by the neck, lifting him off the ground. Pathetic, the alien growled. You think you can protect her? Eli gasped for air, his vision fading, but he managed a weak smile. I already did. Then he slammed the energy cell from his broken blaster against Varen's armor. It exploded in a flash of blue light, throwing both of them to the ground. Kara screamed his name, running forward. Varen rose first, his armor smoking, his expression furious. Enough! He roared. He raised his sword to strike the final blow, but Kara stepped between them, catching the blade in her bare hand. The energy hissed, burning her palm, but she didn't let go. Her eyes blazed gold. You will not touch him, she shouted. Varen tried to pull back, but Kara's strength held him. You break our laws, he roared. I break your cruelty, she said. Then she twisted the blade from his grip and drove her fist into his chest. The impact echoed like thunder. Varen stumbled, falling to his knees, blood glowing red against the sand. He looked up at her, disbelief in his eyes. You would betray your blood. For him? Kara knelt beside Eli, her wounded hand still bleeding. No, she whispered. For love, the soldiers around them froze. Silence hung in the air. None dared move. The word love was forbidden among the Varish. It was seen as weakness, corruption. Yet here it was, spoken by their greatest warrior. Varen fell backward, eyes dimming. Then you are already dead, he said faintly. Kara's face softened with sadness. Perhaps, but at least I die free. He fell still. The red in his eyes faded to gray. Kara turned to Eli, lifting him gently. His face was pale, his breathing shallow. You foolish human, she whispered. Why would you do this? He smiled weakly. Because I couldn't let you stand alone. Kara's tears shimmered like molten light. Above them, the two remaining ships stopped moving. The soldiers looked to her, uncertain. None dared fire. They had seen something they could not understand. A bond beyond their laws, beyond their pride. Kara rose slowly, holding Eli close. Leave, she commanded. Her voice rang across the desert, calm but powerful. Your commander is dead. Take your shame and go. For a long moment no one moved. Then slowly, the soldiers turned and walked back toward their ships. The engines flared and the great vessels began to rise into the sky. The desert grew quiet again. The fire died. The wind returned. Kara knelt in the sand beside Eli, brushing dust from his face. Rest, she whispered. It's over. But above them in the fading clouds, a faint red light still glowed, proof that the Empire was not done yet. The war between love and law had only begun. The wind of Havalon III had grown quiet. The battlefield lay in ruins, half-buried ships, smoking metal, and the broken armor of warriors who had once been Kara's brothers. The red suns climbed slowly over the dunes, casting long shadows over the dead. Kara knelt in the sand, holding Eli's head in her lap. His face was pale, blood smeared across his cheek, but his chest still rose and fell, weak but alive. For a moment, she let herself breathe. The fire in her heart finally cooled, replaced by something gentler. Fear. Not fear of the Empire or of death, but fear of losing him. She had seen countless battles, but this small human had done what no blade or blast ever could. He had reached her heart. "Eli," she whispered softly, brushing his hair away. "Wake up." His eyes fluttered open slowly, unfocused at first. Then he looked up at her and managed a faint smile. "You're still here," he whispered. Kara nodded. "Always," he tried to sit up, groaning. "Did we win?" Her golden eyes turned toward the horizon, where the Varys ships hovered like dark clouds, unmoving. "For now," she said. "They watch. They wait." Eli coughed weakly, then gave a small laugh. "Guess they didn't like that speech you gave." Kara smiled faintly, though sadness lingered behind it. "They will not forgive me. I have broken every law they hold sacred. Killing Varen." She looked down, her voice trembling. "He was my brother, Eli. My blood." He reached out, placing his hand on hers. "Then maybe it's time for new laws." Her gaze met his, warm and searching. "You speak like one who leads." He shook his head. "No, just someone who's tired of seeing good people die because others are afraid to change." For a while, neither spoke. The wind carried the sound of burning ships and distant thunder. Then Kara's eyes lifted toward the sky. The largest Varys ship had opened its hangar. A beam of light descended, white, bright, and silent. "They come," she whispered. "The High Council." Eli forced himself to stand, leaning on her arm. "What do they want?" Kara's face hardened. "Me. And perhaps you." Moments later, 3 figures appeared in the beam. Tall, robed, and glowing faintly with the same silver hue as Kara's skin. Their faces were hidden behind masks carved with runes. The leader spoke, voice deep and cold. "Kara of the Bloodline, you killed your commander. You violated the sacred bond, and yet you live." Kara straightened, towering over them. "I live because I chose mercy. I live because I chose truth." The leader tilted his head. "You chose a human." Kara's jaw tightened. "I chose a soul." Eli stepped forward, his voice quiet but firm. "She saved your kind from becoming monsters. You call her traitor, yet she fights for honor. Maybe you've forgotten what that means." The 3 robed figures turned their masked faces toward him. The leader said, "You speak boldly for something so fragile." Eli met the gaze of that faceless mask without fear. "I might be fragile," he said, "but I'm not empty." For a moment silence fell. Then Kara spoke again. "If judgment is due, let it fall on me alone. The human is under my bond." The leader stepped closer. "You invoke the bond of life?" Kara nodded. "By my blood and breath." Gasps came from the soldiers who still watched from the dunes. The bond of life was ancient, a vow older than the Empire itself. It meant she had tied her life to Eli's. If one died, the other would too. The leader hesitated. "You would link your soul to this creature?" Kara's voice was steady. "He taught me what it means to be alive." The air shimmered around her. The light from the beam pulsed brighter, the sand trembling beneath their feet. Then the leader raised his hand. "So be it, the bond is sealed. You are no longer of the Empire. You are outcast, both of you." The beam vanished. The ship above them turned slowly, its engines roaring as it rose higher into the sky. Then just like that, it was gone. The remaining soldiers bowed silently and left with the last vessel, leaving behind nothing but silence and smoke. Eli turned to Kara, breathing hard. "What just happened?" She looked at him, her expression unreadable. "We live, but we have no world now. No name, no place," he smiled faintly. "Then we'll make one." Kara blinked as if she didn't understand. "Make one?" Eli looked around at the vast red plains and the ruins of ships scattered across the horizon. "This place, it's empty, broken, like us. But maybe that means we can build something new. Something better." For a long time, Kara said nothing. Then slowly her lips curved into the softest smile. "You speak madness, Eli Trent," he grinned. "Maybe, but it's good madness." Days passed. The fires burned out. Together they worked, Eli building, Kara clearing wreckage with her great strength. They repaired the old cabin, blending human tools and alien metal, creating a strange new home under the twin suns. Sometimes at night, Kara sat outside watching the stars. She no longer looked toward her homeworld. Instead, she looked at the small light of Earth and whispered, "Not enemies, just different." Eli would join her, wrapping a blanket around them both as the cold desert winds blew. "You think they'll ever come back?" he asked one night. Kara's eyes shone softly. "Maybe, but not as hunters. And us?" he asked. She turned to him, her golden eyes warm. "We stay, we build. We live," he smiled. "Sounds perfect." A quiet peace settled over them. The stars above shimmered brighter, as if the universe itself watched the strange pair below. A lonely human and an alien giant who had defied an empire for love. Kara reached for his hand, her fingers dwarfing his, yet holding them with care. "When I first saw you," she said softly, "I thought you were weak." Eli chuckled. "You weren't wrong. But now I see," she continued, "it is not strength that keeps a soul alive, it is heart." He looked at her, his voice barely above a whisper. "Then I guess we both have one." And as the night wind carried the ashes of the old world into the sky, Kara rested her head gently against his shoulder. Two exiles, two hearts, one bond stronger than any empire. For once, the lonely human was not lonely anymore, and the alien giant who came as a mistake became the greatest choice of his life. The end.